I don't know if you fat, obese, chubby, or skinny. Do these people not know my stats? These bots done got to your mother fat heads. You're not an icon.
SZA just exposed Nicki Minaj with screenshots that nobody saw coming. We're talking about text messages where the queen of rap is literally begging for features from the same woman she's now calling irrelevant. And it all started with a tweet about astrology that somehow triggered one of the messiest celebrity meltdowns of 2025. But here's the thing that'll blow your mind. This isn't just about hurt feelings or social media drama. There are congressional hearings involved now, death threats, FBI investigation, and a money trail that leads straight back to Jay-Z and millions of missing dollars.
Nicki Minaj and SZA are seemingly feuding on social media. After Nicki Minaj called out SZA for allegedly subtweeting her, the rapper went on a rant about SZA's appearance and career.
The internet is picking sides, but wait until you hear what really happened behind the scenes, because what started as a harmless Mercury retrograde post just became the most explosive feud in recent hip-hop history. So how did we get from astrology tweets to federal investigation? It started with 3 words that changed everything. On July 15th, SZA posted what seemed like typical SZA content: Mercury retrograde, don't take the bait, LOL, silly goose. No names mentioned, no obvious targets, just a gentle reminder about planetary movements and not falling for drama.
I see my perspective as being, if Nicki drops an album right now and SZA drops an album right now, who's gonna sell more? Nicki.
I don't know about that.
I'm 100%.
Okay, listen, you know what? Maybe the old...
I can't be sure because Nicki ain't the same rapper that she used to be.
Okay, let's go. Come on, keep it a buck. That's like saying who's gonna sell more right now, LOL or Barbie. LOL might be beating Barbie out.
Except Nicki Minaj saw it differently. Within hours, the queen of rap unleashed absolute hell. And we're not talking about subtle shade here. Nicki went nuclear with a string of posts that left everyone wondering what planet she was actually on. She called SZA a liar whose voice sounds like a dead dog. She mocked her appearance, saying she looks like she got stung by a bee. She even went after SZA's freckles, telling her to go draw your freckles back on. But here's where it gets weird. Nobody could figure out why a tweet about astrology would trigger this level of rage from Nicki.
Nicki Minaj and SZA have been beefing all over X, and I truly cannot tell you why. The beef started when SZA posted, Mercury retrograde, don't take the bait, LOL silly goose, to which Nicki randomly replied, go draw your freckles back on, Bookie, liar liar pants on fire, sounding like a dead dog.
The timeline didn't make sense. SZA's post seemed completely random, totally unrelated to anything Nicki was going through. Then the pieces started falling into place. Right before SZA's retrograde tweet, Nicki had been going after someone else entirely. TDE President Punch, who used to manage SZA. Nicki was dragging this man through the mud, calling him a tiny duck executive, and claiming he'd been bullying her online for months. She was demanding justice for someone called Demery, throwing around hashtags, and basically declaring war on SZA's entire record label.
Nicki Minaj crashed out on TDE's Punch and SZA on the timeline this week. Then Punch called out academics, and Act claimed that neither Kendrick or Drake's teams are on shit. Here's a breakdown of what's happening, and stick with me because it is a lot. Alright, essentially, this was sparked after Punch tweeted Broken Barbies in support of rising artist I Am Lyric's new song.
So when SZA posted about not taking the bait just hours later, Nicki saw it as a direct shot, a subtweet, a challenge from enemy territory. The problem? SZA genuinely had no idea what Nicki was talking about, but Nicki wasn't done. She kept going, posting video after video, tweet after tweet, building this narrative that SZA was some fake industry plant who'd been plotting against her. She resurfaced old footage from the Met Gala, showing Rihanna seemingly ignoring SZA, using it as evidence that even Rihanna knew SZA was fake.
Move over, Kendrick and Drake. There's new beef in the hip-hop world. Nicki Minaj versus SZA.
I can't believe it.
You're extra, you're loud, you're unapologetic. Well, thank you.
You are a yodeling fool who needs auto-tune.
The Barbs, Nicki's fan base, mobilized immediately. They flooded SZA's mentions with the kind of coordinated harassment that makes grown celebrities turn their phones off. But SZA, who's usually pretty chill about online drama, wasn't backing down this time, and that's when she dropped the receipts that changed everything. Wednesday night, while Nicki was still going off about fake girls in industry politics, SZA posted something that made the entire internet pause. Screenshots, text messages from July 2020, and they showed something absolutely wild. Nicki Minaj reaching out to collaborate.
As for how it started, Nicki originally called out rapper Punch, who is also signed to SZA's Top Dog Entertainment (TDE) label, for allegedly bullying me on Twitter for no reason.
The messages showed Nicki through a mutual contact asking if SZA was available to record. She had a hook she thought SZA would be perfect for. This wasn't some industry obligation or label politics. This was Nicki actively seeking out SZA's talent for her own music. SZA's caption was pure fire. "Nicki, you absolutely know my music and what I contribute, cause you asked for features twice to no response." Twice. She'd asked twice. But wait, it gets better. SZA reminded everyone about something most people had forgotten. That iconic line from Nicki and Beyonce's "Feeling Myself," cooking up the bass looking like a kilo. Yeah, SZA wrote that. She's literally credited as a co-writer on the song.
To which SZA replied, "I don't give a F about none of that weird stuff you're popping." SZA then posted again stating, "LMAO, let me go back to being calm, shy, and meek. Y'all have a blessed night. See you tomorrow for night 2, Paris." To which Nicki replied, "Shut up, ugly." Nicki then continued posting all of her X, which you can pause to read all of these.
Meaning Nicki had been performing SZA's lyrics for years. So here's this woman who Nicki claims is irrelevant and nobody knows, but she's been trying to get features from her and rapping her lyrics on Grammy-nominated songs. The irony was so thick you could cut it with a knife. But this is where the story takes a dark turn, because Nicki's response to being exposed wasn't embarrassment or apology. It was escalation. See, this pattern isn't new for Nicki. She's had public feuds with practically every major female artist in the industry. Cardi B, where things got so heated, they had an actual physical altercation at New York Fashion Week.
Nicki says Punch has been bullying her since at least 2012, but after that recent tweet, she proceeded to go ballistic on him and SZA, and Doechii also caught this like random stray. Then SZA responded, essentially asking to be left alone while she was on tour, and Nicki has just let the chopper sing on the trail these last few days.
Megan Thee Stallion, where they traded diss tracks that got extremely personal. Remy Ma, Lil Kim, Lotto, the list goes on and on. But there's something deeper happening here that most people miss. According to the hosts on The Breakfast Club, who know Nicki personally, this behavior comes from a place of genuine pain. Nicki came up in New York where nobody believed in her. She had to leave her own city, go down to Atlanta, just to get people to take her seriously. Every step of her career, people doubted her flow, her numbers, her authenticity. So now, even when she's one of the biggest rappers in the world, she still feels like everyone's against her. Like every tweet is a sub-tweet. Every collaboration she's not part of is a conspiracy. Every successful woman is somehow trying to diminish her legacy. The Barbs enable this mindset by going to war for her every single time. They're not just fans. They're a digital army that can make or break careers with coordinated attacks. And they don't play around. One of them told a radio host her face looked like a coffee table. They leave unicorn emojis as intimidation tactics. It sounds harmless until you realize they're capable of harassment campaigns that last for years. But SZA wasn't intimidated. She fired back by pointing out that she gets bullied by millions online every day, then steps out onto packed stadium tours where people show her real love. She reminded everyone that her parents are healthy and she's the most successful she's ever been. Basically, she told Nicki and the Barbs to get some perspective and bark at the wall. That's when The Breakfast Club got involved to figure out what was really going on.
All right, y'all. So last hour we talked about Nicki Minaj and SZA and their beef that came out of nowhere, or so it seemed, on X yesterday. So I reached out to Punch from TDE, who I also talked about in the first hour, who was at one point managing SZA, and I asked him, how did we get here?
Loren LaRosa, one of the hosts, reached out directly to Punch to get his side of the story, and his response was genuinely confusing. He said back in 2020, Nicki had reached out for a SZA feature. He told her SZA was in album mode and he'd get back to her. The collaboration never happened. They never spoke again, and that was it. But then he said something interesting. He was confused too. Lost was how he put it. Like, this 2020 interaction was so minor, so forgettable, that he couldn't understand how it had blown up into this massive public feud 5 years later. Then there was this weird detail about a song called Broken Barbies. Punch had posted about it right around the time this drama started, and people thought maybe that triggered Nicki somehow. But it turns out it wasn't even about her. It was a song by an artist he's working with now called I Am Lyric. The timing was just coincidental, but in Nicki's mind, everything's connected. The hosts were trying to piece together this puzzle, but none of it made sense. A failed collaboration from 2020, a random astrology tweet, and a song that had nothing to do with anything had somehow created this nuclear explosion between two of music's biggest stars. But then things got really serious. MacWop, a DJ and streamer associated with TDE, made what Nicki interpreted as a death threat during a live stream. He told her to relax before you get put in a blender like your boy did, which many people thought was a reference to the Kendrick Lamar and Drake beef. Nicki immediately tagged the FBI in her response, demanding an investigation.
Nicki Minaj is alleging that y'all have had issues behind the scenes, and because of that, this is an alleged retaliation, like you guys have been retaliating against her. And here's what he said to me. So he said, back in 2020, Nicki Minaj had reached out for a SZA feature on a song.
But she didn't stop there. She reached out to Florida Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna for help, claiming there was unchecked corruption in the rap industry and artists were being intimidated by labels and managers. The Congresswoman actually responded, confirming she'd spoken with Nicki directly and promising to do everything possible to ensure her safety. She mentioned RICO investigations and threats of violence, turning what started as Twitter drama into a potential federal case. This is where you realize this isn't just about hurt feelings or social media beef. There are bigger forces at play here. Nicki's been fighting multiple battles simultaneously. She's been going after Jay-Z over what she claims is money he owes her from the Tidal streaming service sale. She invested in Tidal back in 2015, getting a 3% stake that should have been worth millions when Jay-Z sold the company to Square for over $300 million. But Nicki claims she only got a tiny payout, calling the whole thing a scam. She's also been criticizing Roc Nation over the NFL's decision to have Kendrick Lamar headline the Super Bowl halftime show instead of Lil Wayne. All of these grievances seem to be fueling her anger, and SZA just happened to be the target when everything boiled over. Meanwhile, SZA's been having the opposite experience. Her joint tour with Kendrick just became the highest grossing co-headlining tour of all time, earning over $250 million from just the North American leg. Her last solo tour grossed nearly $100 million. She's got multiple Grammys, platinum albums, and is literally at the peak of her career. So when Nicki claims that SZA would vanish from the music business without being missed, the numbers tell a completely different story.
He responded and told Nicki Minaj that SZA was in album mode heavy and that he would get it over to her, and that was it. They never spoke again.
But here's the real kicker that nobody's talking about. This whole feud is happening while SZA is on tour with Kendrick Lamar, the same artist who just destroyed Drake in the biggest rap beef of the decade. Drake is signed to Young Money with Nicki. So there are label politics and loyalty questions swirling around all of this that go way deeper than Twitter beef. The industry implications are massive. When female artists fight this publicly, it reinforces stereotypes about women not being able to support each other. It makes collaboration more difficult. It creates an environment where success is seen as a zero-sum game instead of something that can lift everyone up. SZA tried to end things gracefully, posting that she was going back to being calm, shy, and meek, and focusing on her Paris shows. But Nicki kept going, making claims about Drake's Rich Baby Daddy song and alleging that she was originally supposed to be on it instead of SZA. The whole thing revealed something uncomfortable about the industry. Here's an artist who's achieved legendary status, who should be secure in her legacy, still feeling threatened by the success of others, still needing to diminish other women to feel powerful. But the most shocking part, the screenshots don't lie. Nicki knew exactly who SZA was and what she brought to the table, because she'd been trying to work with her for years. So what do you think? Is this just Mercury retrograde chaos, or is there something deeper going on in the industry that's making successful women feel like they have to tear each other down? Did SZA handle this the right way by posting those receipts, or should she have just ignored the whole thing? And here's the real question nobody's asking. If Nicki had gotten those features she requested back in 2020, would we be looking at a completely different timeline right now? Would these two powerhouses be collaborating instead of feuding? The internet's already picked sides, but this story is far from over. With federal investigations pending and tour dates still happening, anything could happen next. Let me know in the comments whose side you're on and whether you think this whole thing could have been avoided. Make sure to subscribe if you want to stay updated on this developing story, because something tells me we haven't seen the last of the Nicki versus SZA saga. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.